Welcome into the Shawn Quinn Show right here on ESPN Radio Savannah. Christian Gokel, joined as always by the head football coach of your Savannah State Tigers, Shawn Quinn. And Coach, before we dive into last week against Valdosta State and get ready for this week's game, man, it's a little bit rainy outside, a little bit wet, but I'm sure practice this week after a game and having some film, nice to be back on the practice field and after a game and going into another game week.
Yeah, had a real good week of practice. Guys have come out and worked hard, and we got a bunch of guys back we didn't have last week, so it's been good to get those guys back out, and it's good. Had good practice, so we got to finish out the week good and get ready to go play Saturday night, and excited to be at home and have a good opponent and a good opportunity to get another one.
And Coach, just a rough night all around out at Valdosta, and you're not the first team that's happened to, and certainly you won't be the last, as you kind of said this last week leading up to it. They're kind of the standard bearer for Division II football, but 53-7 ends up being the final score, 30-0 at halftime. What were the Blazers able to do defensively to slow you guys down the way they did?
Well, here's the thing. Going into the game, very much the analogy I'd give you would be like a Ball State or a MAC school playing an SEC school from a comparative standpoint, from a talent standpoint. Early on they scored. It was 13-0. We had 4 minutes going in before half. We're down 13-0. We got the ball, and we have a turnover, and we have 3 turnovers within a 4-minute period, and 17 points later, and the ball game was flipped. So that really was the disappointing thing. Defensively, they did a good job blitzing us and creating some turnovers. They created 2 turnovers, and one of them was a scoop and score for a touchdown. So the tough part was, defensively for us, there were 17 points that got put on the board, and we were never out there for any of those snaps. So when you play a team like that, you got to play about perfect. And when you have your turnover margin is -4 and they get a safety in there, it's tough to win. And obviously that kind of reared its ugly head. So, but they tackled well. They truthfully, probably, Christian, the biggest thing I would say, and it was good for our players to see it on film, they played harder than we did, especially early on. And then we rallied, and then we had the turnovers, and it just, the game was over at halftime in the sense of they're not going to give up 30 points in the second half, being down 30-0. So at that point, it was just, hey, how hard are we going to play? And, so I was really disappointed. I know our players were, and you have some of those nights. This was one of those deals. And, with a lot to learn from it. I know the biggest thing is losing sucks. Sure. And that's the biggest lesson in it.
Yeah, you'd rather learn lessons from a win than learn lessons from a loss. But Coach, you kind of mentioned it there, and I think it's one of the bigger factors, especially when you're playing really good football teams, is I know I've heard the analogy like quicksand or like the snowball effect, where it's just you can't let one mistake turn into another mistake, turn into another mistake, turn into another mistake, because there's a big difference, like you said, between, okay, you have a fumble and it's 20-0 versus then you allow that to turn into another fumble and all of a sudden the game's out of hand.
Yeah. The hard part was we had 2 fumbles down 13-0. We got the ball on 2 fumbles, and on both of them, they pick them up and run them into the end zone. That's 14 points without anybody doing anything. And so that was tough, man. And anytime you give up 14 points where their defense scores 14 points, you're generally not going to win. So, our formula has been outrush our opponent, play harder than they do, and win the turnover battle. And they did all 3 of those. As a spread team, they outrushed us 210-106. So, that was a big difference. We couldn't run the football. We never got in rhythm on offense, and defensively early on, we took some shots, and then we kind of settled down. And then we didn't play well, and coach well. That's on me having us not ready to go. And but I'm excited. We had a good week. Like I said, we got a bunch of guys back that didn't play last week that we'll have on defense, and excited to get back at home here and get going.
And Coach, just going to some of the individual performances during the game, I had a couple of quarterbacks play, but Jamorion Hardage seemed like the guy when you guys were trying to air it out a little bit more. Was that just being down and trying to throw the ball around a little bit more, or was that something you plan to do anyway going into the week?
Well, 2 things. JT had a really good camp, and Devon, who's been our starter, was out with an injury and missed a significant amount of time and only really practiced 3 days before we played, and he had been out for some time with an injury. And really this week healthy for the first time. And we felt like they were going to really make a concerted effort to stop the run, which they did. They loaded the box. We had some one-on-ones. We had 2 fades for touchdowns. Demeek Colbert dropped a touchdown one-on-one. And then all of a sudden, instead of being 13-0, it's 13-7. He drops a wide open fade. He beats the guy. And so there's, we threw the ball more than we cared to. And honestly, if we were throwing it 30, 40 times a game, that's not our MO. And
Right.
When you get into the deal where you're throwing the ball a lot more than running it, that's not how an option team works.
Well, go and you said you're a running football team, and I'm sure just 106 yards on the ground, not what you guys are looking for. If you're a team that wants to throw the ball around, 100 yards on the ground is great. But when it's your identity, 106 yards probably not going to get it done.
It'd be like Metallica playing Yanni all night. It doesn't really work. So.
What was the biggest contributor, do you think, to that, Coach? Was obviously you have to get away from it a little bit when you start getting down big and you start having to throw the ball around. But just in the first half there, I mean, you see D'Angelo Durham averaging about 2 yards a carry. That's not what's going to get it done.
Well, they whipped us up front. I mean, honestly, they in the middle of the line of scrimmage, they played better than we did. Let's call it like it is. We've hung our hat on being better up front than everybody we play, and they outplayed us up front. I mean, mightily, and on both sides of the ball. They won on the line of scrimmage, and that was, to be honest with you, that's been our secret sauce here. And that's, if you look at Alabama and people like that, they win because they're better than people up front. And they outplayed us up front. I'm going to give all the kudos to them. They played harder as a team, and they whipped us up front on both sides of the ball. And good lesson for us. So we'll be better for it. We'll play better this week. We'll get back go in the right direction. But not the way you want to start it off for sure. And been a lot of stuff I can do better. So excited to get back on the right track this week.
And Coach, flipping over to the defensive side of the ball, we know Valdosta State, they can put up points, and obviously 53 not what you're looking for, a couple of defensive touchdowns there. But any positive performances after you went back and broke down the film that you feel like you can build on going forward?
Yeah, we had transfer safety Marvin Grunchy, who's just been here for a limited time, played really well for us, and is now going to be a starter. And I thought he did some good things. We got a lot of guys. We had 3 linebackers out for this game that really play a lot for us, and some young guys got some opportunities to play. But I was really disappointed in our defensive line. That's been a strength of our team. They didn't play up to the standard, I think, of what they expect or we expect. But there were some individual guys that did some good stuff, but we collectively, didn't play well. So, again, I'll go back to the only thing you learn in losing is that it sucks and you want to win. That's the only lesson I ever get at. It reminds me every time I drop a hammer on my toe, I know it hurts. So there's no good lesson in it. Don't do it again. That's my lesson.
Well, we got a big game coming up back home in Ted Wright Stadium coming up 6 p.m. on Saturday against Livingston College. We'll dive into that when we come back with Coach Quinn right here on ESPN Radio Savannah. Welcome back into the Shawn Quinn Show right here on ESPN Radio. Christian Gokel alongside the head football coach for your Savannah State Tigers, Shawn Quinn. Coach, a chance to get in the win column and to play a home game coming up and to see fans in the stands. I know some announcements coming out from Savannah State Athletics about what the attendance numbers are going to cap out at. You can find all of that on ssuathletics.com and just the rules and encouraging people to wear face masks. But, Coach, just to be able to look up in the stands and see hopefully thousands of people up there cheering on your Tigers, it's got to be something you're excited to see.
Yeah, I hope the thing's packed to overflowing and they can't find a seat in there. That's what my hope is. We want a loud and large crowd there and as many folks as we can fit in the thing. So every week getting to play at home in front of our fans is always an advantage. And we hope the Tiger Walk will be great and then we'll have a good crowd. And we got to go produce and make people want to keep coming back to see us play. So it's a lot of fun to be at home, sleep in your own bed, not have to travel on the bus for hours at nauseum. Yeah. So excited to be able to stay at home.
And Coach, before we dive into Livingston College, it's also Armed Forces Night, of course, Saturday, September 11th. I know 20th anniversary of that coming up. You come from a military family, just Armed Forces Night, September 11th. What does it mean to you, and what are some of your memories from 20 years ago?
For me, biggest thing is just honor our troops and the sacrifice they make to allow us to have the freedoms to do what we get to do. 9/11 was really I saw it live and remember them wheeling the television. We were getting ready to play University of Florida. I was at Tennessee and we pushed the game back. I remember them bringing the TV, rolling out into the lobby and showing the tower getting hit. And all of a sudden the second plane went in and I went, man, something's not right here. And just the whole thing that went through after that, just shutting our country down and the sadness and the anger and the rage and just all the stuff and I just remember, we're as divided a country as we've ever been in the history of our country right now. And, that was one thing that united our country probably more so than any other time I've been alive, was going through that. People from both sides of the aisle joined together and to fight terrorism. And so really, people of an older generation talk about where were they when JFK was assassinated. For my generation, where were we when 9/11 happened? So, I grew up in a large city of Chicago. And so, seeing that happen, that could easily happen in somewhere at the, Sears Tower, somewhere in Chicago. There's a lot, I'll remember that for the rest of my life. So we want to honor the troops here that serve us and the folks that protect us. And, obviously we have a huge military presence here in the city with the bases here with Hunter and also Fort Stewart down the road. And, what those guys do is pretty amazing, and gals do, and keep us safe and allow us to live in a great country and get to do the things we want to do every day, every week.
And I know, Coach, just going back for me, I was obviously young when it happened, but going back and watching the documentary, it seemed like sports were really the first thing where the country kind of hit pause, and then sports were really the first thing where we saw everybody coming back together and saying, we're not going to be scared.
Yeah. I remember President Bush throwing out the first pitch at Yankee Stadium. I can remember our first game. It was the next week we played LSU, and they played the Star Spangled Banner. And, Tennessee's a large stadium. I remember getting chills like none ever before with the way that everybody in the stadium singing it. And, we wore an American flag on our arm sleeve the rest of the year to remember the folks that had died. So, yeah, it had a big impact on our season and on me personally, and just going through that. It's sad and still is to this day, and crazy that it actually happened.
Again, no better way to come out, show your support, and really just be part of the community than get out to Ted Wright Stadium this Saturday. Again, kickoff set for 6 p.m. Get out early, tailgate, hang out with people, and then get into the stadium and support your Tigers. Really cool. I think something that could be, Coach, if we make it, could be a really cool part of the community. I mean, South Georgia, it doesn't get bigger fandom for football, period, around the country. So just something that can become a part of the community. And I know that's what you're trying to build right now, is just Friday night you go watch your high school team and you pack that out, and then Saturday just make it a part of your schedule. You're out watching Savannah State football.
Yeah, that's the goal. You want to make it tailgate friendly. They go out there and have some burgers, a couple cold ones, hang out, have some fun, and then come in the stadium and get loud and rowdy and make it a good time. So we got to win and put a good product out there, and that's our job to do. And what's the old saying, build it and they will come. So hopefully we can do that and continue to move forward.
Well, the Livingston College Blue Bears coming to town, Coach. What can you tell us about them? What should fans expect to see on both sides of the ball from the Bears?
Well, defensively, they do a really nice job. Shawn Gilbert's their head coach, who was a great defensive player in the NFL. They're very good on defense. They don't give up many points. They play good, sound defensively, similar scheme to us. And then offensively, they're a spread team. They've got a really good tailback, a good wide receiver. They play two quarterbacks. They're going to play hard. They had a barn burner with Clark Atlanta last week, who's in our league, who played us in overtime. So looking at all the things relative to relatives, it's 3 degrees of Kevin Bacon here on this one, but they've got a good football team and they're going to play hard, and it'll be a challenge. So, I've told you this and I've told everybody the same thing. We're good enough to win every week, but we're also good enough to get beat by anybody that we play. So it's a challenge each and every week. We got to play our best football.
And again, coming up at 6 p.m., Coach, looking at the game, though, and going into this week at practice, what have been your biggest focus when you guys writing it down on the notepad? I know you stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning watching film with these guys, and you've told me you stay up. The thing that keeps you up at night is third down blitz packages. So what have been the notes that you took into practice this week getting ready for this game?
Really honestly gotten away from some fundamental stuff, tackling better, and holding on to the football. We didn't have to do a good job protecting the football last week or tackling, and that's been main points of emphasis. And it still comes down to fundamentals. So if you take care of your fundamentals, that's always the most important thing that you can do to give yourself a chance to win football games. We got to do a better job of that.
Well, Coach, I think I got something that'll make you smile. Coming up next, we have mailbag questions from some Savannah State Tigers fans. So we'll dive into those, get those answers for you. Coach, you think you can handle some mailbag questions today?
Let's let them rip, man.
All right, we'll dive into that when we come back next right here on the Shawn Quinn Show.
Hey, give me 1 second, Christian. Somebody's knocking on my door. Give me 2 seconds here.
Sure.
Somebody knocking on my door? Somebody knocking on my door? Okay. Let's put it underneath there. Yeah, I'm finished. I'm in the middle of a radio show. I'll be done in like 5 minutes. Y'all want to put it? We could put it underneath the like where we put that other one. Let's start it there. I'll be right there. I got my. All right. Sorry about that, buddy.
Oh, good. Should get about 5 more minutes here. Let me pull up those questions. All right. And welcome back into the Shawn Quinn Show right here on ESPN Radio Savannah. Final segment here with Coach Quinn on this Thursday afternoon. Coach, going into the mailbag, man, we have some fans writing in on ESPNcoastal.com. Again, if you want to get your questions in, email Christian at ESPNcoastal.com. But, Coach, we had Michael write in, and he's from Savannah. He wanted to know about some local players that you recruited to the team that you're excited about in 2021.
Really, really excited about a bunch of these guys. I'm sure I'm going to leave some out of the mix, but Jordan Clark is a freshman from Richmond Hill, and he's had a tremendous camp, played really good the other night, deserves more snaps, played great on special teams. If we won the game, it would have been our special teams MVP, made a bunch of tackles on punt and kickoff. Another local guy, Jaden Adams, a quarterback out of Islands, has really, really impressed us. I think he's got a chance to be our quarterback down the line, and he's just gotten better and better and just made it the right makeup. Those two guys really stand out to me locally. We've got a bunch of other guys that are already playing that are local players. Julian Roberts is our starting tight end from Memorial. He's played really well. Jordan Grant's a backup tailback from Savannah Christian. Marquell Brown, Randy Scott, who's from Effingham, has played really well. And then we've got 3 guys playing for us from South Effingham, both the New Build twins and then Connor Vasher, who's one of our best offensive linemen. So I can go down the list, but out of that new class, those 2 guys have really jumped out at us and just played really well and are super mature for being freshmen.
And Coach Latavius writes in here, and he wants to know how the NCAA ruling about the transfer portal and the extra year of eligibility are affecting you guys.
Frankly, it's been a benefit to us. We've had more guys come than we've got scholarships. The conference voted not to allow intertransfer in the league, and I wanted to let it happen because we've had a number of guys that would have come here had they allowed transferring within the conference. But it's been a benefit to us. I'm not big on transfers, but in Division II, there's a couple marquee schools, obviously, about Austin, West Florida, and they do a great job. And, we're in that same world because of our city where guys want to transfer in here. So, my thought is if a guy wants to leave here, then we need to let it move on anyway. So, we've been fortunate. We've had our good players stay, and we just got to keep winning and treating them the right way. And the big thing here is changing expectations on how players are treated, how the perception of the program is, and do everything here first class from how we feed them, clothe them, equip them, do everything the right way. And our guys live in a great city. They'll want to stay and play here and win championships.
And Coach Edward writes, a very official Edward writing in here, and he said he's a Savannah State alum. He wants to know what's the best way for his fellow alumni to support the program. Probably the best way is to support TFA Savannah at tfasavannah.com. That group's a fundraising group that helps raise money for Tiger football, and they know the intimate in and out needs that we have here, which is obviously some nutrition and equipment things. Obviously we want to build a facility and a weight room, but TFA Savannah is a fundraising group that's been set up to try to help raise money for Savannah State football, and they've done a good job. I appreciate those guys and their efforts. So if tfasavannah.com would probably be your best first look. And finally here, Coach, question from me. I know you're all 100% focused in right now on Livingston College, but if you get a chance on Sunday, I'm sure you're watching your Chicago Bears, right? I'll watch our film. I'll go to church, and then I'll look at the Red Zone highlights that night when I get home on Sunday night late. But, I don't even know who they've got, which is terrible to say. I think they've got the Rams. Is that right? I believe so. There's a good one tonight. I'm looking forward to the Bucks and the Chiefs. That's Thursday night's my one night I go home at a decent hour and try to have a family night or date night or something. Bucks Cowboys. Bucks Cowboys. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So be interested to see how that one goes on both ends. So how long into the season do you think before Justin Fields is stepping in for Andy Dalton? That's a good question. Obviously, you don't draft first round quarterbacks anymore.
No, I don't know what the Bears' philosophy is going to be on that one. Obviously, he's the most talented guy in the room. It's just a matter of when do they hand him the keys.
Yeah.
And I think it depends on how they do early on. I think obviously Matt Nagy's trying to make sure he keeps his job. If the season goes south, I'm sure he'll play quicker if they're winning games. And I would say the longer they win, the longer it's going to be till Fields is the starter. The quicker they lose, the quicker generally they'll go to a reclamation project and say let's put the rookie in and go.
I'm trying to confirm. Yeah, you are on Sunday Night Football this week, Coach. Bears at Rams.
I may see a little bit of that one then, because usually after our practice Sunday nights, hopefully get a chance to see that a little bit after Sunday, after film and lifting and all that stuff.
Well, again, coming up this Saturday in Savannah, live college football for the first time in 2021. Go out, support your Savannah State Tigers. I mean, Coach, what else are you doing at 6 o'clock on a Saturday? It actually works out perfect for the city of Savannah, right? Because you go watch a 3-hour football game, and then it's 9 o'clock, and then you can go hit the nightlife. So, I mean, I think it works perfect.
Perfect. Let's go get a win and then head down Drayton, go to Zunzi's, get a sandwich, and then hit the city. So
there you go.
we got a challenge. We need our crowd and our fans there. So looking forward to it and being at home and honoring our military in the process.
Coach, we really appreciate the time, man. Look forward to seeing you out there on Saturday.
Hey, appreciate you, brother. Go Tigers.
And again, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Shawn Quinn Show. If you miss any portion of the show, you can check it out on ESPN Coastal's YouTube, also podcasted on Spotify, SoundCloud, and Apple Podcasts. We'll talk to everybody next week.